Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome to Channel S. We're doing Let's Talk Live here. We're talking about Sri Lanka. War crimes. Was there a war crime in Sri Lanka? And was it perpetrated by the current government? Or is it a made-up story? Is it a fictitious one that the Tamil community is trying to create in order to gain support? There has been a war going on for a long time. 26 years of brutal civil war in different intensities within Sri Lanka. This was brought to an end on May 2009. In May 2009, the government pursued the Tamils, and those who were rebelling and those who were fighting actively were obliterated, captured, killed. But the fight was intense. An estimated figure of hundreds of thousands of people killed, fled, and of course destroyed their homes, and all properties that they had were destroyed by the government. All these allegations are flying around. We even heard David Cameron, who went to the Commonwealth Summit in Sri Lanka recently, where he said if Sri Lankan government does not bring an investigation, an independent investigation by March, then he would himself present to the United Nations for an investigation. There must be some truth behind such a statement. Otherwise, why would the Prime Minister of Britain make such a powerful statement saying we need to investigate? What do you think? Do you think there was or was there not a war crime perpetrated in Sri Lanka by the current government and its head? We have three people. We have Raj Kumar, S-A-N Raj Kumar, representing the British Tamils Forum today. Raj Kumar, welcome to our program. We have also Guru Paran, who is a lecturer in law at the University of Jaffna. Guru Paran, welcome to our program.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming. And we have Upali Jaya Tilaka, who is a solicitor. Welcome to our program, Upali.
Thank you.
Let's get you gentlemen to start. And I'm going to start with you, Upali. Was there a war crime?
I cannot confirm or deny. So the jury is out there. I mean, there was a tribunal set up by the Sri Lankan government.
There was or there is?
There was a LLRC.
And what did you find?
There were certain findings and certain recommendations have been put in place. So they are to be implemented.
Human rights groups have alleged or made allegations that tens and thousands of people were killed. Estimated 20,000 to 75,000 people have been killed in this brutal few weeks of intense attack by the government. According to government, it was 9,000 people. Now, there's a huge disparity between the two, isn't there?
That's correct.
How do
I mean, if you recall in 2009,
yes.
when we had a similar discussion.
Well, my mind doesn't go that far,
Yeah,
but you
but
tell me.
I'll tell you. In 2009, you asked me the question. I mean, this war has been going on for so long. How do you think we could see to an end to this?
You're not a Tamil, are you?
I'm not a Tamil.
Okay.
When you asked that question, I said that the only way that this war can end is either the LTT surrendering or the LTT being eliminated. And you, at that point, said that I'm suggesting genocide. That is before the war ended.
And lo and behold, there is an allegation that the genocide took place.
Precisely, yeah. Now, similarly, if you take World War II, right, when the Allied forces tried to deal with Germany, certain atrocities were committed by the Allied forces.
We've come a long way since
Precisely,
World War
precisely,
II.
precisely.
Now we have checks and balances.
Precisely, yeah.
So you're saying
Yeah.
the government didn't perpetrate a war crime. It
I'm-
just
I-
cleaned
I-
up
I-
Sri Lanka from
I'm not
Tamil
saying,
Tigers.
I'm not saying either way. I'm not saying either way.
So you're sitting on the fence.
I'm sitting on the fence, of course.
Why is
that,
it-
that is a matter for investigation and proper.
But why would British Prime Minister make such a demand for an investigation if the investigation has already taken place?
There has been a partial investigation. Further inquiries have to be made, and that has to be left for the Sri Lankan government to deal with.
I read a recent article published by one of Mr. Mahinda's own friend, who he knew from his early childhood, I believe, who was assassinated or killed, who was an editor, I can't remember his name, a journalist, who had given an interview before he was assassinated, that by the time this interview is released, he would be probably be dead.
Yeah.
In which he actually accuses Mr. Mahinda Raja Paksa of lots and lots of brutality, inhuman activities, corruption to the core. A man he loathed and detested, and he knew him very well. Are you saying his friends were making up these stories?
I'm not saying that they're making up stories, no.
Okay.
There may be some truth, but everything that they say cannot be correct.
So what would be the benefit of this journalist who is a friend of Mahinda, who got assassinated anyway at the end, of making such statements? Well, what would he gain out of it? He's a journalist, right?
I cannot comment on it, but that, I mean, nothing is perfect. Nothing is perfect. There may be certain deficiencies, right? Those should be investigated, and they will be investigated.
Let's get to ask the same questions to Guru Paran. You are a professor or lecturer at a university in Jaffna. Are you still practicing as a professor there?
I teach law at the University of Jaffna, which is in northern Sri Lanka.
You still teach there?
At the moment, I'm on study leave, pursuing a PhD in law at the University College London.
Here?
Yeah.
How long have you been here?
I've been here for a month.
Okay, so you're very fresh from Sri Lanka, and you were there during the 2009 conflict.
That's right.
Do you consider, as a lecturer, a professor of law, would you think that the law was, international law was actually broken by the current president, Mahinda Raja Paksa?
Absolutely. I mean, from our perspective, what happened was nothing short of a genocide. When I say I belong to a forum called the Tamil Civil Society Forum, which is a grouping of civil society activists from the north and east the country, where Tamil people live in a majority. We've maintained the position that there needs to be a full international independent investigations into what happened, not just during the last phase of the war, but actually what happened in the last 30 years, but particularly the last phase of the war. And that investigation has to be broad. What I mean by broad is that it needs to be full-fledged, in the sense that if you look at the Rome Statute of the International Criminal Court, it talks about Article 6,
Yep.
7 and 8 crimes. Now Article 6 is on genocide, 7 is on crimes against humanity, and 8 is on war crimes. And we've asked for, and our position is that there has to be an investigation into all these 3 categories of crimes. Now let me say this: it is not just the Tamils who are saying that that there needs to be accountability. Now the UN Secretary General appointed a panel of experts to report back to him as to what happened during the last phase of the war. And they got back and said that there were at least 40,000 people who were killed. Now later the UN Secretary General ordered an internal review report in terms of the UN's conduct during the last phase of the war, a report which is called the Petrie Report. And the Petrie Report said that at least 70,000 people were killed. Now the Bishop of Mannar, a Roman Catholic Bishop of Mannar, a well-known voice of the Tamil Civil Society, went before this panel. I mean, it wasn't a tribunal, I must say. It wasn't a panel, it was a presidential commission, a commission appointed by the president called the Lessons Learned and Reconciliation Commission. Now the Bishop of Mannar appeared before this commission and said that 146,679 people are unaccounted for.
146,000.
Now where did he get those figures from? Now his figures come from government data. Now when I say government data,
Unaccounted for. What do you mean by that? I don't understand.
So it might be that these people have been killed, or it might be that they are part of the big number of people who are classified as disappeared. Now Sri Lanka
Disappeared to where?
disappeared because they surrendered to the Sri Lankan government.
So
Now,
they could be in prison.
they could be in prison, but it's incommunicado detention, meaning we don't know where these people are being kept. And this is one of the things that the UN panel of experts report, and many countries across the world, and the UN High Commissioner in particular. The UN High Commissioner Navneet Pillai is asking needs to be investigated into what happened to all these people who surrendered.
I still am puzzled by this. Upali, what do you say to this? 149,679 people have been unaccounted for. Is that a fictitious number? It's such a huge number, you know. This is like whole of Taha Hamlets, population of Taha Hamlets have disappeared and nobody knows where they are.
I can't comment on that.
Why can you not comment on that? I don't understand. I mean,
Right.
you are a solicitor.
Yeah.
Here is an issue of law.
Yeah.
another lawyer, or at least lecturer in law, is saying there has been nothing short of genocide.
No,
And
yeah,
it's
I understand.
Because of
But
149,000
the point
people,
is,
people have disappeared.
he quotes from a person's statement that a person from government statistics says that 149,000 are missing. Likewise, other people have come before this forum, right, before the LRC, and given different figures.
Look, let me ask you, look,
Yeah.
look, make my life easy. 149,000 people have disappeared,
Mhm.
or they've been reappeared. Now, there is no halfway house. Either they have disappeared,
I mean,
or they're there.
there is no
It's a
question.
large number of people.
There is no question that there have been disappearances.
So
There is
what?
no question-
Genocidal disappearance.
Disappearances. I mean,
So how can you
can't
disappear
call,
149,000
you can't call it
Killings are
genocide. No, if you call it genocide, right? There have been killings on both sides. You can't call it genocide. I mean, genocide
You're
is
talking
where
about an
there-
intense
there-
war,
there
right?
is willful killing.
Let's look at May 2009.
Yeah.
Between May 2009 and what day did it all end?
No, it finished in May
When did it start?
The last phase of the war, somewhere in, shall we say, mid part of 2007.
So 2007 and 2009, what was the last push by Mahinda, the president himself, or his order to push to obliterate TTL?
So the battlefield of the Vanni, the intense war there.
Yes.
One can say the battle towards the north intensified mid to latter part of 2008.
So within that was 6 months, we are talking about 40 to 50,000 or 70,000 people dead.
According to the UN.
Yeah, and you are suggesting 149,000 people have been disappeared.
No, I'm saying that they are unaccounted for, meaning that there is a good number of them whom we think have been killed. I mean, so included that figure might be the 70,000 or 40,000 figure, or slightly more.
Okay,
under-
let me get you in. I know you're sitting there thinking, what am I going to speak? You're from British Tamil Forum. Rajkumar, tell us a bit more. Our viewers want to know, are these figures just made up?
Okay, I mean, let me start in straight away rather than giving an introduction about this 146,000 figure. I mean, this figure,
49,000.
49,000 figure, this figure was actually drawn up from government statistics. Because every GA, the general, the government agents on districts like Mullaitiru, Kilinochchi, they have a number of population over there. So at the end of the conflict, these people who surrendered to the army, they took a complete record of who the people actually surrendered. This difference is actually based on the difference from the number of people who were there in the final phase of the war and then the people who surrendered. Now, so that figures is actually a government figure. Secondly, the government itself published a figure called around 90,000 war widows in the north and east. Now, if you claim that there's 90,000 war widows, definitely 90,000 deaths, because obviously there are married people actually dead. And also, if the government's claim
90,000 war widows over 26-year war.
no, this is actually from the north during the last phase of the war. That was
So within the 6 months, 90,000 war widows have been accounted for.
yeah, this is a figure which came up from the government statistics. So I'm actually quoting from there. Now, obviously, there will be people unmarried or children, so that the figures are more. So there is credible evidence there is credible evidence in terms of numbers, also in terms of.
So what's stopping the international community from actually issuing or ordering a UN-led proper investigation?
Well, there is various reasons. I mean, probably one is the geopolitics of it, and
What is the geopolitics of it? I mean, are we bringing in India and China into the equation?
definitely yes.
What is the geopolitics of it? It's a small island, right? What's the significance of Sri Lanka
Well,
as far as the world is concerned?
Well, China got some interest in terms of building their naval or the sea lanes, because they are actually expanding the sea routes, and Sri Lanka is one of the strategic places where China has already heavily invested in 2 harbors and great infrastructure. Whereas India is concerned, it is an island just only 40 nautical miles from India itself, and it wanted to keep their sphere of influence over the island. So we can go on about talking about the India.
But if you are saying there is foreign interference involvement, let's open that up in a minute. But I still want to establish the truth of what actually happened. If you are listening to this program, watching our program, and if you happen to be Sri Lankan of any persuasion, I don't mind, do give us a call. We want to hear from you. We want to know if you believe the media, the hype, the statistics that we're talking about. You know, it sounds staggering number, 149,000 people disappeared, 90,000 war widows, 20 to 70,000 people allegedly killed. Figures are coming out randomly or maybe accurately from all sorts of sources. I want to know what you make of this. Do you believe in what's being proposed? Do you think actually in Sri Lanka that was the only way forward? That's going to be my next question actually. So what do you expect the government to do? Rajkumar, LTT has been waging a brutal war for 26 years. In fact, LTT has been attributed with mastering the art of suicide bombing before it became a monopoly of the Muslims, allegedly. LTT has done horrendous activities in Sri Lanka and outside, including attacking in mainland India. Now, you cannot but take decisive action. If you were in the government, you do the same. Why are you crying foul now?
Well, there are so many questions you have, Payal.
Yes, I'll try and answer a few of them.
I mean, first of all, the way you had to look at this is the government actually, played this LTT card far long and too long, and saying that there is the LTT, the elimination of LTT is so important. They played this card along for the international level.
Isn't it true though? LTT did exist, right?
Well, LTT did exist,
And it was a terrorist organization. Is that right?
Well, whereas as Tamil people concerned, they look at it as a defense of genocide.
Defense of what?
Defense of genocide, because when the Sri Lankan establishment or Sri Lankan state actually conducted a genocide, full-fledged genocide on Tamil people, they actually looked at, I mean, obviously under international law you can see different acts can be classified as, obviously, wrongdoings and so on and so forth, but I'm actually talking about the perspective of how the people from the north, from the Tamil perspective, how did they actually look at as the LTT's role? Because if you really look at it now, the intense militarization, intense land grab, and intense colonization of grabbing, Tamil lands, they actually feel that there's no defense. So obviously, looking at all this, the crimes and all the other things, but the defense, it comes in from the Tamil perspective. And then on the international side, you can actually talk about all these crimes. But what the government has done from then onwards, I mean, you're talking about the 2009. I mean, I'm also accusing that after 2009, there's so many things have happened. I mean, 14,000 people have actually surrendered, and their whereabouts are not known. I mean, we are asking for this list under the international law that this list should be actually published or given to ICRC. These are the people we captured. So where are they? And what's happening to the rest of the factors? So it's the LTT bogeyman is being played big in terms to cover up the genocide.